Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I want to welcome you to our Reintegration with Partners video. Our goal for this next couple minutes is going to be helping you prepare to reestablish connections with your service member who also is anticipating their return home. So our first activity, if you have a rubber band or a hair tie around, I want you to put it on your thumb, on your right hand, and wrap it around the back of your hand to your pinky finger. And I want you to push it all the way down so it's wrapped around at the bottom of your finger. So this activity, your objective is to get the rubber band off your pinky finger and hanging around your thumb. But here are the rules. You may not use your other hand, any other body part, and any object. This can be a difficult task. Some of you may be thinking that's not possible. I'm not going to be able to get this rubber band off of my pinky. Well, there is an exception to this. I never said that you couldn't use another person. So the reason we do this is it gives us the opportunity to realize that we need teamwork. Reintegrating with our spouse or our partner after deployment is really a two-person job. So both you and the service member must be committed to engaging fully in the homecoming experience. So in other words, there is power in two. So the 4 topics we're going to cover today all require this power of two. We're going to talk about reestablishing connections with your service member, celebrating growth and change as individuals and as a couple, recognizing operational stress and where to go for help, and restoring intimacy and closeness. So our first activity, we have 3 doors with different questions behind them. So I want you to pick a door. The first door is, what was the most difficult part of deployment? What do you miss most about your partner? And how do you want to celebrate homecoming? So each of these questions typically will pair you up and you have answer this question with a partner. But this is something you could do with your own partner. Have this discussion with them. So the reason we offer these questions is because they are open-ended questions. So we really want to think about using more of an open-ended question because it really helps us in practicing asking and responding to them and helping us reestablish face-to-face communication with our partners. Because when we first start having face-to-face communication again, after this long separation, it can be very awkward at first. So open-ended questions encourage us to have meaningful conversations to strengthen our relationship instead of closed-ended questions, which at the very minimum only require a yes or no response. So Fleet and Family, we offer a 20 questions handout, and it's a communication game for you to share with your partner. So it's very similar to the questions in the slide previous, except these questions are a lot more interesting. So the questions have a general theme and they address different topics, but they're things like deployment and homecoming, also relationship and intimacy questions. When you get the handout, or if you would like to get the handout, please let us know. You'll see that there are some empty cards. So these blank cards are for you and your service member to add your own questions. When playing this game with your partner, it's really important that if there is a question that comes up and you're uncomfortable answering it, to let them know, hey, this is a very personal question. I'm not comfortable answering it at this time. So please be sure to have that open flow of communication and keep it flowing. We really encourage you to play this 20 question game, or maybe you don't want to take the 20 questions we have. You can create your own. Take some flashcards, index cards, and write your own open-ended questions. Pinterest has a bunch of them. Google. I have little chat pack cards. So lots of different ways for you to play this game whenever you really want to feel closer to each other. Maybe you feel that communication is becoming an issue, or even if you just want to have fun. It will help you build honesty openness, trust, and even help you restore that intimacy with your partner. Finding quality time with your partner can be a little tricky when you have children, relatives, and or friends who are also eager to see your service member. So you and your partner will need to discover how to balance time with each other, time alone, and then time with family and friends. So we've split this time into two different things. You have quality time versus quantity time. So there's definitely going to be moments when you and your partner will need time alone. And it's important that we honor these moments without feeling guilty or fearing that love is lost. When needing alone time, we want to reassure each other that the relationship is safe and still intact. And then we have couple time versus family time. This can be especially challenging when you have children or even other relatives who are eager to be a part of your homecoming. So just remember, a loving marriage is one of the greatest gifts you can give to your children and your extended families. Don't feel guilty about getting a babysitter or even asking your relatives to visit after your family has had a chance to reunite. Most relatives will understand. Our next topic is going to be change. Many service members indicate that they experience a culture shock when they return home. This is because day-to-day life on a deployment is very different from everyday life at home. And a lot of times these feelings of culture shock are multiplied when our service member returns and things are different from when they left. So just remember that even subtle changes that you have made could appear very drastic to your service member because they weren't home during the progression of the change. These changes could be in the home environment. Maybe you bought new furniture, or you remodeled, or you've moved things around. Even your daily routine. Maybe you started working different hours. Maybe you changed dinner time. Maybe you wake up earlier or go to bed later. Even your personal changes. Maybe you've gained or lost weight, got a new hairstyle. Maybe you got a new job or a promotion. Maybe you have new habits that change life at home. For instance, maybe you've become a vegetarian, or maybe you started keto. Something has changed in that capacity. Emotional. In what areas have you grown more independent? Have you grown more sensitive or even desensitized to certain topics? And if you have children, what changes have occurred with children? What are their new habits, hobbies, and interests? Even our social life could have changed. What does it look like now? Have you met new friends or dropped former friends? How often do you go out with friends? And do you entertain guests at home? And how often? So remember, these changes may seem very minimal or small to us because we were the ones who implemented them. And we've had the opportunity to really adjust to these changes slowly, but our service members are really going to be thrust into these changes once they return. So, to help minimize this culture shock, we really want to talk with our service member about these changes before they return. That way, we're giving them the opportunity to mentally prepare and understanding that adjusting to these changes will take some time, so we want to be patient. So, not only have we probably changed, our service member has probably changed too. So, just as it will take time for them to adjust at home to the changes, we will also need to adjust to the changes they bring to the relationship. So some of these changes might be easier to deal with than others. And if you or your partner feels uncomfortable with change, be patient with each other and really try to discuss these questions. So, what makes you uncomfortable about this change? What is causing the resistance? What is positive about this change? In what ways is this change good? What can you do to make it easier to accept this change? What kind of support is necessary to honor the changes that have taken place? If you or your partner feels so strongly about change that you reach an impasse in your discussion, you might consider counseling. If you do not feel comfortable seeking counseling, you can find support through professional organizations and network groups that offer tools and resources to aid your situation. As you address these issues by adapting to or renegotiating change, be sure to acknowledge your resilience as a couple to overcome these challenges. So when things get difficult, some couples automatically begin mentally creating an exit strategy for their marriage. So this could be they are saving money so they can move out, or they begin distracting themselves emotionally and physically. Instead, we want to accept that challenges are going to happen. And instead of creating an exit strategy, we really want to create an entrance strategy. So here's 2 tips to help. There's a saying, how can two walk together unless they meet on common ground? One of the most productive ways to adjust to change is to acknowledge the positive characteristics of your relationship that remain constant. So we want to ask ourselves, what has not changed that is more important than what did change? We really want to think about the things that we genuinely like about our partner, or even back to what we fell in, like the reasons why we fell in love with our partners. So it's really important to build on what we started by reminding each other of what you like and trying to maintain consistent with these personal qualities. So, for instance, let's say one of the reasons that I love my partner is he has a great sense of humor. So, since my partner I love his sense of humor. If he becomes too serious, it can be difficult for me. So, really trying to remember the things that we love about our partner and that our partner loves about us, and keeping those in mind as we go through this time of change. Our second tip is to celebrate the growth that change brings. Change is not always easy, but it usually helps us grow as individuals and as a couple. So ask yourself, how will this change make our relationship stronger? It may be helpful for you and your service member to sit down and answer these questions together. Be sure to take time to acknowledge each other and celebrate these changes. Now we're going to talk a little bit about operational stress. So, I know we're not in person, but I'm sure you might have heard of the term combat and operational stress control. So, combat and operational stress can be defined as changes in physical or mental functioning or behavior resulting from the experience of military operations. The difference between the two is that combat stress is combat related and is a consequence of lethal force or its aftermath. Operational stress is related to stressors that occur during military operations other than combat. So for this workshop, we're going to focus on operational stress. So the Navy Operational Stress Control has a tool called the Stress Continuum, which is this model here. It's a color-coded chart with 4 zones representing how service members may react to different levels of stress. So the 4 zones are the green or ready zone, the yellow reacting zone, and orange injured zone, and then finally the red ill zone. So here are some characteristics of the green zone. Service members are in the green or ready zone when they're able to cope with their current stressors and manage their personal well-being. In other words, they are not stress-free, but they are mission ready. When a combat or a operational stressor occurs, such as deployment, a service member may move into the yellow reacting zone. The yellow zone represents behaviors that are normal reactions to stress. So here's the different examples. So remember, these reactions are normal. The service member can adapt and move back to the green zone, or if they find it difficult to cope, they can move into the orange or injured zone. Orange or injured zones are invisible stress injuries, but the wounds are literal and result from persistent distress. And here are a few of these reactions. If you suspect your service member is in this orange zone, it's important to admit that stress may be more than they can handle alone and they need to seek help. Service members usually heal from these different stress injuries when given proper help and care. So if the orange or injured behaviors persist and get worse, or they could even get better and then come back worse, the service member may move into this red or ill zone. And with this in the red zone, the following medical disorders are typically in the red zone. So post-traumatic stress disorder, major depression, certain anxiety disorders, substance abuse disorders. If you suspect your service member is in the red zone, you should refer them to medical staff immediately. Only a medical or mental health professional can make the distinction between stress injuries in this orange zone and stress illnesses in this red zone. I know this may sound frightening, so you need to know that stress illnesses are very treatable. The majority of service members who receive treatment finish their tours of duty, and many continue to serve. Early detection and treatment is the key. Getting help is really a sign of resilience. So the following resources will help you recognize the symptoms of stress, recommend appropriate treatment, and eliminate the stigma associated with getting help. So we have the chaplain, who offers 100% confidential counseling, chain of command, command ombudsman, your Fleet and Family Support Center. We have our own counseling and advocacy side, as well as Military One Source provides 24/7 virtual counseling, along with our Naval Center for Combat and Operational Stress Control. Some additional resources include Safe Harbor, which is a Wounded Warrior Project program that provides sailors and Coast Guardmen and their families with non-medical care, such as lodging and housing adaptation, child youth care, transportation needs, guardianship issues, education and training benefits, respite care, and more. The program allows families to really focus on recovery without distraction. Then we have the Veterans Crisis Line, which connects service members and their families in crisis with qualified responders that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If your service member expresses suicidal or homicidal thoughts, please seek help immediately by calling their toll-free hotline, 1-800-273-TALK or 8255, option 1. You can also text for help by sending a text to 838-255. Caring for someone who has operational stress is difficult. If your service member needs help coping, chances are you also need support. Please refer to the Deployment Support Handbook on how to contact these resources, plus many others. So we have saved the best topic for last, which is intimacy. Many of you have probably started to think or even fantasize about your first encounter with your partner. Everything we've discussed up until now, open communication, balancing time, celebrating change, and understanding operational stress, contribute to restoring intimacy in your relationship. There are many forms of intimacy: intellectual, emotional, physical, and of course, sexual intimacy. So if we think about deployment, it's really created this opportunity for us to enhance our intellectual and emotional closeness with our partners through letters, emails, phone calls, videos, care packages. Homecoming is going to give us an opportunity to rediscover physical touch and sexual intimacy. This can be a source of anxiety and stress for couples, and it is very normal to have concerns about intimacy, especially when you've been separated from your partner for an extended time. Couples who have experienced deployment and homecoming express anxiety about sexual performance, dealing with children and relatives, and being naked in front of each other. Spouses who are pregnant or have recently given birth expressed feeling self-conscious about their appearance. Partners who've gained weight or lost considerable weight have expressed similar fears. So, understanding that anxiety is a normal part of the reunion process is very normal. Sex may seem awkward at first, and expect some tension. Really allow each other time and space by not rushing. So, here are some tips to enhance your relationship and make sexual intimacy more comfortable. Do what you did when you first fell in love. You probably came together because you enjoyed each other's company, so use this opportunity to date again. Both of you have changed, so take the time to get to know each other. Go out to dinner, walk in the park, put on some music and dance, leave notes around the house. Start with touch. Physical intimacy is not the same as sexual intimacy, although it can lead to it. So try to start with small acts of touching, like holding hands, sitting close to each other, stroking your partner's hair, giving a shoulder or foot massage, soft kisses on the cheek, hand, or forehead. Sometimes less is more. Communicate your love. Communication can bring you closer. Partners may experience high or low sexual interest. And for the other partner, that may cause disappointment, disagreement, or a sense of rejection. This may pass, but it is important to reassure your partner that you still love them. Discuss feelings, frustrations, or anxieties. It's easy to let our imagination get the best of us and create anxiety. For example, a spouse who just had a baby may feel self-conscious about her appearance, while their spouse finds them sexy. By sharing these feelings, the partner can help ease that concern. Talk about sex. This can be fun in itself. Talking about your sex life is the single best method for improving it. Remind your partner of what you like or dislike, and talk about what you feel comfortable doing or not doing. It is important to have a light heart when having these discussions. If your conversation is too serious, you may end up becoming frustrated or offending each other. Prioritize intimacy. Do not put so much emphasis on the sex aspect of intimacy, whether good or bad, that it overshadows the joys of being a couple. Allow the emotional, intellectual, and physical touching aspects of affection to be the building blocks to sexual intimacy. So next up, now that we've talked a little bit about intimacy and restoring it, we're going to read through a couple of journal entries of different couples who are expressing intimacy issues after deployment. These journals are based on fictional characters. However, their situations describe issues that many couples face when it comes to restoring intimacy. So our job is to help these couples by one, identifying what is creating the stress or anxiety about intimacy, and two, we're going to offer at least 2 suggestions to help them overcome their challenges. As we help these couples, we really want to think about everything we've discussed so far about reestablishing connections through open communication, balancing time, celebrating growth, honoring change, and even operational stress. So our first scenario, the spouse and partner says, since my partner returned home, sex has been fantastic. But I have noticed that when we are not being intimate, we don't talk at all. I still don't know what my partner's deployment experience has been like. And my partner doesn't seem interested in hearing what life was like for me at home, juggling things while they were away. We both have changed so much. Outside of the bedroom, I feel like we don't know each other anymore. I just want us to hold each other and have a meaningful conversation. The service member says, since coming home, sex has been incredible. Unfortunately, that is the only thing worth bragging about. Nothing else is as I expected it to be. I don't agree with some of the changes my partner made while I was away, but I don't want to be offensive, changing everything back to the way it was before. Having sex is far better than having an argument. So what might be creating stress or anxiety for this couple? You may be thinking they're not really spending enough time to communicate. And it seems like the service member is avoiding dealing with the changes, and they've really defined their relationship by sex. So, what suggestions might help this couple overcome this challenge? Maybe if they agree to talk before or after making love, or even using the 20 questions game that we talked about earlier. They could even spend time together in a public place, maybe going to dinner or walking in the park, where they don't have the opportunity to have sex. Although sex is great, this couple needs help sharing their experiences and addressing the changes that have taken place in their household. Spending time in a public place where they can talk about the distraction of sex is a good idea. Because it seems initiating conversation is difficult, this would be a great time for them to use the 20 questions communication game. Okay, so here's our next one. The spouse and partner, or spouse/partner says, my partner has returned from deployment and doesn't seem interested in sex at all. Our love life was great before the deployment began, so it must be because of the weight I gained while we were apart. My partner says I look fine, but I don't believe it. If I were attractive, we would make love more often. I'm trying to lose weight, but it's hard. The service member says, deployment was tough. I'm happy to be home, but I am physically and mentally tired, and quite frankly, sex is the last thing on my mind. My partner has gained some weight and thinks that is the reason why. I tried to explain that this is not true. I just need some downtime. I want to relax in my comfortable bed, soak in the tub, and catch up on doing nothing. I want to talk about my experience, but no one understands what I've been through. So, what could be causing stress or anxiety for this couple? It seems like the partner feels insecure and even rejected, and then the service member just wants to relax. They could possibly be even experiencing some operational stress. So, what suggestions might help this couple overcome their challenges? I think helping them share their experiences, even discussing the change, and dealing with insecurity by exercising or improving diet. This could be a great opportunity for them to take a walk together or start exercising together, giving the service member space, and even focusing on other aspects of intimacy. The partner is obviously feeling insecure, and the service member may be dealing with some operational stress. They may also need to balance time with each other and time alone. To help, this couple may benefit from communicating their love by prioritizing intimacy. So, sharing their experiences, lessons learned, and goals will build emotional and intellectual intimacy. Communicating their love and engaging in physical touch, so holding hands, sitting close to each other, etc., helps to take the pressure off sex and build security in the relationship. Even exercising together and making other lifestyle changes to improve health can be a source of bonding. So these changes would not only be good for the partner's body image, but also help the service member deal with any of the operational stress from deployment. So if the service member continues to struggle with operational stress, they should seek professional help. Okay. So here are some additional tips from couples who have experienced deployment. So court your spouse even before homecoming day through letters, emails, and phone calls. Make love every day, to include doing things with and for each other. So smiles, kisses, gentle touches, cleaning the car, even cooking meals. Expect intimacy to be awkward at first. Start with tried and true techniques. Tell your partner how much you love and appreciate him or her, and really respect and trust each other. Another great resource is talking to other military spouses or military families and seeing what tips do they have. We offer several other homecoming workshops, general homecoming brief, This one right now is reintegration with partners. We also have just for kids, which is a reintegration with kids class, as well as homecoming for teens. If you have any questions or concerns or would like to get the 20 questions information, please feel free to reach out to us here at Fleet and Family Service Center Yokosuka. Here's our phone number, both the DSN and calling from a Japanese line, as well as our email at ffscinfo@fe.navy.mil. And please feel free to like us and follow us on Facebook. We offer our virtual calendar there, as well as other helpful things for military lifestyle, job employment, financial management, and even fun things about Japan. I want to thank you so much for joining me today and learning a little bit more about reintegration with partners. And I wish you and your service member a great homecoming and a successful deployment cycle. Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.